one person who turned up a good 10-15 minutes late while the speaker was giving their presentation, and they ended up getting a telling off in front of all the other candidates, and I really felt bad for the person and it was pretty embarrassing, so I'm glad I got there early. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Great Grad Job Hunt. It's me, Aman, and a company that I applied to recently, my whole application process culminated in an assessment center or an assessment day. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about how that went, what went well, what didn't go as well, and hopefully you guys can draw from my experiences and take from them and benefit yourselves as well when you go for your assessment centers. So getting there in the morning, I really made sure to be punctual and on time, and there was one person who turned up a good 10-15 minutes late while the speaker was giving their presentation, and they ended up getting a telling off in front of all the other candidates, and I really felt bad for the person and it was pretty embarrassing, so I'm glad I got there early. And I also got an email saying that your assessment center is at this time, please come 10 or 15 minutes earlier, but instead I chose just to be on the safe side and came 20 minutes earlier or half an hour earlier, gave myself a bit more time than what they had told me, and it actually worked out in my favor because although I knew how to get to the train station, the actual venue or the location where I had to go, it was obscured and it was like hidden away, so it actually took a while trying to find the place. So fortunately, getting there on time and leaving probably half an hour earlier, it definitely did benefit me. So yeah, keep that in mind, guys. The first thing that we had to do when we went in is that we had to introduce ourselves, tell everybody a little bit about ourselves and our academic background and history and whatnot. And so I tried to do what I did for my video interviews and with my telephone interviews and whatnot. So I made sure to speak clearly, I tried to be polite and professional at all times. And there were actually quite a few people who were a little bit jokey or joked around when they were introducing themselves, and this didn't really give the interviewers a great impression. And so I'm glad that I tried to stay professional throughout the whole day, as it definitely seemed to have put me in a better stead than those people who mucked around a bit and didn't take themselves as seriously. And one thing that I did with this assessment day, whether it be before I went in for the assessment center or during the breaks or during the lunchtime, is that I made friends. So this helped ease my nerves for me. So talking to people before I went in, just getting to know a bit about them, making friends with the other candidates, it sort of eased my mind that I was applying for a competitive person, and it just showed me that, the people at the assessment center, they're just like me, and I shouldn't really be that worried or that concerned about the competition, because they're just someone else who's in the same boat as you applying at the end of the day. And I feel like talking to them and just making friends with them did ease the pressure up for me quite a bit, so that definitely did help. And also I found that the people at the assessment center were generally applying for the similar sort of roles as I was, so I felt that talking to them and asking them a bit about the various roles they were applying for in the other companies and whatnot, I felt that they were able to offer me some very valuable advice on the places where they were applying and how they went about applying and what they're doing at the moment. So making friends definitely did help me out and just talking to people. There were some presenters or people from the company who were giving talks that did use pretty colourful language, and so they would throw in the odd swear word and they were quite informal, but I tried to make sure that despite all of that, I still stayed professional throughout the whole day and I didn't drop swear words like they would, just so I showed that I could be taken seriously and that I was coming across as someone who's very professional. And yeah, also some of the presenters there that did use colourful language, they were very intimidating and they did try to scare us, but I tried to make sure not to let them throw me off, because I know that was only going to impair my confidence even more when I'd go in for the interviews and sit the test. So there are scary people out there who do try and make you feel a little bit uneasy, but don't let it get to you. So I tried to stay calm and that definitely helped me out. So the first thing that happened after we introduced ourselves and spoke a bit about ourselves and got to know everyone else in the group, the presenter giving the talk immediately grilled us on who the company CEO was and what the current stock and share prices were. And almost everyone in the room fell silent, and there was luckily one or two people who put their hands up who knew the answers to those questions. And it was quite embarrassing because more or less everyone was blank. And it got to a point where the presenter or the recruiter, they actually had to give advice to everyone in the room, saying that even if this is your first or your 50th job interview, you must always know the company CEO and you must always know the current stock and share price. And even though I knew who the company CEO was, I didn't know what the current stock and share price was. So that I thought was really eye-opening for me. And I know that I'm going to take that through to the next interviews that I do go for, because it gives you that edge over everyone else. And I felt that the person who did put his hand up, who answered the stock or the share price question, he already was a step ahead of every other person in the room, and that definitely did impress the interviewer. So that's something I took from my experience that I hope you guys can take with you as well. So we were asked a few questions when we were all in the group, and they were just directed at all of us, and we had to take turns to answer them. And one of the things that I was asked about was the specific career path I'd chosen. But not only that, I was asked why I had gone for that career path over the others and why I chose not to go for the other career path. So having knowledge of the other pathways that were available for me definitely did act in my favour, because what I did was that I answered why I was best suited for a certain role, obviously using my academic experience, my previous work experience, and relating it to why I was good for a certain role and why I was uncomfortable in another role. And this definitely did help me out. So try and have a read around, I would recommend if you can, of the other things that are available. So that shows that you've done your research on what roles are available to you as a graduate, and should hopefully put you in better stead than someone else who's not read up on what else is available. Even in the group interview sessions as well as the individual interviews, they asked quite a bit about recent developments and news stories in said field of the company. And so I felt that it was definitely helpful that I had browsed websites and read news articles and followed social media pages of companies in that area prior to the assessment. So that definitely did help me out, because it showed that I was aware of current affairs, I knew what was going on, I had some commercial awareness as well. And there were a few people who weren't able to give examples of what had happened recently in that area in the news, and I felt that having done so put me at an advantage. So this is something that I've mentioned in my previous videos, and I would have to say that company values are absolutely essential to learn. So when we were in the group discussion and the presentation leader were asking us a few questions, there were individuals who were trying to memorize the company values from the 5 seconds the presentation slide was on the screen. And I felt that having learnt them previously gave me a competitive edge over the other people, because we were asked, okay, which value suits you best and why? Or why would you feel a certain company value is better than another one? And how do your previous experiences relate to X value? And so I felt that having learned them, before I went into the assessment centre, because there are only 5, 6, 7 of them, and it's not too much of a difficult thing to memorize, and having knowledge of them and how I can shape my own answers to fit those criteria, those company values, definitely did put me at an advantage. Another thing that was pretty important was that I made sure to know the company's tagline or their mission statement or what they did, and to have researched the company as well as their clients. So there was an instance where the presentation leader had asked an individual what the company did. And so while the person was stumbling over their words, just broadly naming the field the company were in, saying that the company does this, or they are a firm in this field. What I did was that I answered giving the word-for-word description that the company, or the word-for-word tagline that the company uses to describe themselves, or that they use to identify themselves. And this definitely did impress the interviewer or the presentation leader, because when they flipped to the next slide, those were the words that came up. So I used the words that the company used to describe themselves when answering the question. And this definitely did show that I had done my research. And we were also asked about who the company's clients were. So being able to name a few of them in this field or that field and various partnerships, knowing the company clients definitely helped me out when I was answering questions as well, as it showed that I had done my research on the company. One other thing which was very important for me, and it was something that didn't go as well for me, but it's a brilliant learning experience, and I really hope you guys can take from that as well, is that I had over-prepared in a way. So when I was answering the questions I was given, I felt that I had over-prepared for them and I already had a preconceived notion of what I was going to say for this question, or I had something memorized for that question. And I felt that I ended up answering what I had rehearsed or memorized as opposed to what was being asked of me. And so there were instances where I felt that my own answers didn't seem as natural or as organic as they should be, and they seemed a little bit scripted or perhaps rehearsed. And so obviously make sure you do prepare, but don't over prepare. So have your preparation done, know roughly what you're going to say, and try and remember what's being asked of you and answer the question. Obviously, I know it sounds very simple, but at the end of the day, you want to answer what they are asking you. And so I felt that's where I might have slipped up. So going forward, I know that I probably am not going to memorize a whole answer and point for point what I'm going to say with regards to a certain question. Instead, I think it's best if I just remember certain keywords that will perhaps trigger roughly what I'm trying to say, but also at the same time keeping my points quite open so that I'm not answering what I've prepared, rather I'm answering the question that's asked of me. Another thing that really helped me out was that when I was asked about whether I had a certain skill or something that would make me good for a certain thing in the company, I gave examples from my own experiences to illustrate the point or the fact that I had this skill or that skill. So using examples from what I've done before, whether it be from my academics or from my work experience or previous work history, I felt that definitely did help me out, as it showed that I'm able to back up what I say I've done, and it gives my points credibility as well. So try and take from that if you can. Other than that, yeah, I think the assessment center went okay. Like I said, there were a few instances where things didn't go so well. So for example, people turned up really late. A lot of us didn't know what the current stock or share prices were, or who the company CEO was. In my instance, I felt that I'd over-prepared some of my points when I was going for my interview. But hopefully these can all be things that I can use as a learning experience and that you guys can draw from as well. And that when we go into our next interviews, that we know what we're doing. But either way, yep, hope this video has helped you out. If you do have any questions, drop them in the comments section below. Remember to subscribe to our page on YouTube, follow us, like us, all of that good stuff, and we'll see you in the next video.